The world had changed, irrevocably. Where once stood towering cities, now only skeletal frameworks reached towards a sky no longer blue, but a sickly orange, marred by the smoke of destruction. Humanity, in the eyes of the cosmos, seemed to have been snuffed out like a candle in the vast, indifferent darkness. But like embers under ash, life persisted. Colonel Alexei Steele Novak, a man whose very name had once struck fear into the hearts of Earth's enemies, now navigated through the ruins of what was once Moscow. His uniform, tattered and stained, bore the scars of both battle and survival. His eyes, once bright with the fire of command, now reflected the cold reality of a world at the brink. As he moved through the debris, his feet crunched over the remnants of civilization, each step a reminder of what was lost. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional distant cry of a scavenger or the eerie whistle of the wind through bullet-riddled buildings. Alexei's mind wasn't on survival, though. It was on vengeance. In the days following the alien invasion, humanity had been caught off guard, unprepared for the brutality of an interstellar foe. The invaders, known as the Draconians, had come with technology far beyond human comprehension, their ships like dark comets, their weapons turning Earth into smoldering craters. But they hadn't counted on human tenacity. Alexei had seen too much. Families torn apart, cities turned to ash, the sky raining fire. In a bunker beneath the rubble, he found his purpose again. There, amidst the survivors, he began to speak of retaliation, not just survival. His words were like steel, forging hope from despair. He led them into the daylight, to the hidden caches of weapons left by the military, now guarded by remnants of Earth's forces. Here, in the shadow of destruction, a resistance began to take shape. But not all were convinced. Among the survivors was Dr. Elena Yurievna, a scientist whose faith in humanity was tempered by the reality of their situation. "Alexei, we're barely holding on. Is war really our only choice?" she had whispered once, her voice a mix of fear and hope. "It's not just about survival, Elena," Alexei replied, his voice low, his gaze piercing through the gloom. "It's about making sure they remember our name. They've pushed us into a corner, but that's where we fight the hardest." The decision was hard, fraught with moral implications. To fight was to risk the last vestiges of human life, but not to fight was to accept a slow death under the heel of the Draconians. Alexei knew this was more than battle. It was about legacy, about ensuring that humanity's story didn't end in the ashes of Earth. He gathered those who believed, the fighters, the thinkers, the dreamers. Together, they began planning, not just for skirmishes, but for a war that would echo through the stars. The first step was to gather intelligence, to learn from the enemy's technology while hiding their own burgeoning capabilities. In the dark, silent nights, Alexei would often stand watch, his thoughts on the countless lives lost and the few they had to protect. The weight of leadership was heavy, the path fraught with decisions where every choice could mean life or extinction. As he looked up at the alien ships occasionally streaking above, a resolve hardened within him. Humanity would rise, not just from these ashes, but into the stars, to write a legacy in blood and steel. The tale of their survival, their fight, would be one to make even the Draconians tread lightly when Earth was mentioned. The air was thick with the scent of molten metal and the hum of generators, a stark contrast to the silence of the ruined world outside. Hidden beneath the Ural Mountains, what was once a secret military base had transformed into the heart of human resistance. Here, under layers of earth and steel, was where Alexei Steel Novak molded the remnants of humanity into something formidable. The cavernous space was alive with activity. Engineers and scientists, many of whom had never known war before, now worked alongside soldiers, their hands dirty with the grease of machinery. Among them, Dr. Elena Yurievna moved with a purpose, her glasses reflecting the flicker of welding torches. She was the mind behind much of their technological advancements, adapting alien tech with human ingenuity. "These modifications could give us an edge, Alexei," Elena said, presenting a schematic of what looked like an advanced drone. "But we need more time, more resources." "Time is what we don't have," Alexei replied, his gaze scanning the room. "But we'll make do. We always do." The resistance was growing, not just in numbers, but in spirit. Yet not all were united in their vision. Captain Mikhail Voronov, a former rival of Alexei, believed in a different approach. He approached Alexei, his steps echoing in the vastness of the bunker.
"We should focus on guerrilla tactics, hit and run," Mikhail argued, his voice carrying a blend of respect and challenge. "Not this grandiose war machine you're envisioning."
Alexei looked at him, his expression unreadable.
"And what does that buy us, Mikhail? Temporary relief? We need something that makes them think twice before even considering another attack on Earth."
The debate was a microcosm of the internal conflict within the resistance. Some wanted peace, others revenge, but all knew the stakes. It was then that a young engineer, Kira Petrova, approached them, her face alight with excitement. "Sir, we've managed to decrypt part of the draconian communication. They're planning another sweep of the area in 2 days." This was the intrigue, the moment where strategy could turn the tide. "We can use this," Alexei decided, his mind racing. "Prepare an ambush. We'll show them we're not just survivors, we're warriors." The plan was risky, requiring them to exploit their limited resources to the fullest. They would use the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and preparing for close combat. But the real stroke of genius was in turning the draconian tech against them. As the day of the ambush neared, tension filled the air. Elena worked tirelessly, her hands deftly modifying the captured alien drones to act as decoys. Meanwhile, Alexei drilled his soldiers, preparing them for a fight where every second could mean life or death. The night before the operation, Alexei gathered his key officers, including Mikhail, in a dimly lit room. "This could be our turning point," he began.
"But remember, we're not just fighting for today. We're fighting for the future of humanity." Mikhail, though still skeptical, nodded. "I'll follow your lead, Colonel, but let's hope this isn't just a Pyrrhic victory."
The next day, as the draconian forces approached, the resistance was ready. The battle was fierce, the sound of guns and alien weaponry echoing through the valleys. The drones, now under human control, confused the enemy, leading them into traps. Humans fought with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. When the dust settled, the victory was clear, but it was Pyrrhic in its own way. Casualties were high, and the sight of fallen comrades was a stark reminder of the cost. Yet, they had captured more alien tech, and more importantly, they had struck fear into the heart of the enemy. That night, as they tended to the wounded and assessed their gains, Alexei looked at Elena, his voice low. "We've bought ourselves time, but at what cost?" "Every step forward is a victory, Alexei," she replied, her voice steady despite the day's horrors. "We keep moving, keep learning." The chapter closed with a sense of uneasy triumph. the resistance now stronger, yet more aware of the sacrifices ahead. They were forging a legacy in blood and steel, one battle at a time. The victory at the ambush had breathed new life into the resistance, but it also came with its own set of challenges. The captured draconian technology, while a boon, was complex, and every piece of it whispered of secrets yet to be uncovered. Deep within the bunker's core, the atmosphere was electric with the tension of discovery and the looming dread of what might come next. Alexei Steele-Novak stood before a holographic map of Earth, now a patchwork of territories controlled by humans and those under alien surveillance. His eyes, weary yet unyielding, traced the lines where they might strike next. Beside him, Elena Yurievna connected the last of the new alien circuits, her fingers moving with a surgeon's precision. "We've got something here," Elena announced, her voice echoing slightly in the vast, tech-laden room. "This device, it's not just for communication. It's a part of their navigation system." Mikhail, who had been quietly observing, stepped closer. "So, we can disrupt their movements." "More than that," Elena explained, her excitement palpable. "We might be able to send false coordinates, lead them into traps or away from our operations." The twist was both a gift and a new edge to the blade of war, but implementing such a strategy would require more than just tech. It would need a daring plan. Alexei's plan was bold. Use the navigation disruptor in conjunction with a newly developed human spacecraft, a blend of draconian tech and human innovation, to engage a draconian outpost in orbit. The twist would be to make it seem like a routine patrol, only to strike when they least expected it. As they prepared, a new face joined the resistance. Captain Li Wei from the Chinese People's Liberation Army Space Force, who had escaped the fall of their lunar base. His knowledge of space operations was invaluable. "Colonel Novak," Li Wei greeted, his voice carrying a respectful tone. "I offer my expertise, but I must warn, the Draconians have eyes in the sky. We need to be ghosts." "Ghosts we will be," Alexei agreed, his gaze meeting Li's. "But ghosts with teeth." The operation was set. The newly christened ship, the Phantom, was a marvel of human ingenuity, its sleek design belying the power it held. On the eve of the mission, tension was palpable. In the control room, Elena managed the navigation disruptor, her fingers flying over the controls. "Sending false signals now," she reported, her voice steady despite the stakes. The Phantom launched into the night sky, its path set to deceive. Inside, Alexei, Mikhail, and Li Wei prepared for what could be the most significant battle since the invasion's onset. As they approached the Draconian outpost, the alien ships began to move, misled by the false signals. But the twist came when one of the Draconian ships, perhaps suspecting trickery, moved towards the Phantom. "Engage stealth protocols," Li Wei commanded, his voice calm but urgent. The ship's lights dimmed, its hull adopting the colors of the space around it, effectively disappearing from sight. They watched as the Draconian ship passed by, its sensors fooled. Then came the moment of action. With a sudden burst of speed, the Phantom attacked, catching the outpost off guard. The battle was swift, the sound of human weapons against alien armor echoing through the void. "We've got control of their communications," Elena's voice crackled over the comms, "sending out a distress signal to draw more away from Earth." The strategy worked. More Draconian ships left their posts, lured by the call of a false emergency. But not without cost. One of the Draconian ships managed a retaliatory strike, damaging the Phantom's propulsion.
We need to retreat,
Mikhail shouted, his concern evident as he worked the controls. Alexei, his face set in determination, gave the order. Back to Earth! We've done what we came for! The return was tense, the damaged ship barely making it back to the atmosphere. Landing was rough, but they had achieved something monumental. They'd not only struck fear, but had shown they could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight the Draconians in space. In the aftermath, as they assessed the damage and the intel gathered, Alexei looked at his team.
We've woken up something. They'll come back harder, but now they know we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting to win.
The chapter ended with a newfound sense of possibility, but also a chilling reminder of the war's scale. The resistance had awoken, but so had the Draconians' wrath. The victory in the skies had emboldened the resistance, but the euphoria was short-lived. Beneath the surface of their success, a poison was spreading, one that could undo all they had achieved. The bunker buzzed with activity, but there was an undercurrent of tension, whispers of dissent. Alexei Steele-Novak was reviewing the reconnaissance data from their space mission when Dr. Elena Yurievna approached him, her expression grave. Alexei, there's something you should know. We've been intercepting communications. It seems someone among us has been in contact with the Draconians. The news hit like a physical blow. Betrayal was the last thing they needed when trust was their most valuable asset. Who? Alexei demanded, his voice low but carrying the weight of his command. We don't know yet, Elena confessed, but the messages are encrypted, and they've been using our own tech to hide them. It could be anyone with access. The intrigue was a dark cloud over the resistance. Trust began to fray, suspicion grew, and the unity that had been their strength started to crack. Mikhail Voronov, once Alexei's rival, now a key part of his command, was the first to voice what many were thinking. We need to root out this traitor before they doom us all. But how do we even start? A clandestine meeting was called, involving only the most trusted, Alexei, Elena, Mikhail, and Captain Li Wei. They sat in a dimly lit room, the weight of their task heavy upon them. We set a trap, Li Wei proposed, his voice steady. We leak false information about a new weapon. See who bites. And if the traitor is one of us? Elena asked, the question hanging in the air like a specter. Then we face it, Alexei decided, his resolve steeling. But we must act. We can't let this poison spread. The plan was set. They would spread rumors of a ghost weapon, a technology that could render Draconian ships invisible to their own kind. The bait was laid, but the hook was in the hands of an unknown enemy. Days passed, each one fraught with tension. Then, the trap snapped shut. A coded message was intercepted, one that mentioned the ghost weapon, and gave away its supposed location for an exchange of peace for Earth's survivors. The message came from within the bunker, from someone with high clearance. The team traced it to Major Sergei Ivanov, a logistics officer known for his strategic mind, but also for his cynicism about the war's end. Sergei. Alexei confronted him in his quarters, his voice barely containing his rage. What have you done? Sergei, caught, didn't bother with denial. I've done what you're too blind to see, Colonel. I've secured peace for some, even if it means the rest of us fight on. The Draconians promised to spare my family. The revelation was a twist that cut deep. Sergei had sold them out for a promise of personal safety, driven by fear rather than betrayal for gain. You've condemned us all, Mikhail spat out, his hand on his gun. Alexei stopped him with a look. No, we deal with this our way. Take him to the cells. We'll decide his fate later. The betrayal stung, but it also provided an opportunity. The Draconians, believing in the ghost weapon, would be coming for it. This could be turned into an ambush. As they prepared, Elena worked on countermeasures, using the knowledge of the intercepted communications to enhance their security. "We'll turn this into our advantage," she said, her voice firm. "But we need to be quick. They'll be here soon." The battle that ensued was one of desperation. The Draconians, expecting an easy capture, met fierce resistance. The human forces, now aware of their compromised position, fought with a ferocity born of betrayal and unity. The fight was brutal, the bunker's defenses holding, but not without cost. The Draconians, realizing the trap, withdrew, but not before leaving devastation in their wake. In the aftermath, as they counted their losses, Alexei's voice was heavy with the weight of leadership. "We've survived betrayal today, but at what cost? We must be more than survivors. We must be unbreakable." The chapter ended with the resistance more united in purpose, but also more aware of the fragility of trust. The war was not just against an external enemy, but against the shadows within their ranks. The scars of betrayal were still fresh, the air in the bunker tinged with the acrid smell of battle and the silent acknowledgement of lost comrades. Yet, from this darkness, a plan for vengeance was born. Alexei, Steel Novak, with his core team around him, plotted the next move against an enemy that had grown too bold. "We turn their own tactics against them," Alexei declared, his voice echoing through the command room. "We know where their main fleet is gathering. We strike at the heart." Elena Yurievna, her eyes reflecting the glow of the screens, nodded. "With the data we've gathered from Sergei's communications, we can predict their movements. It's risky, but it could work." The plan was audacious. Use the Draconians' belief in their own superiority against them. They would launch an attack not just with ships, but with a virus designed to infiltrate and sabotage the Draconian fleet's systems. Mikhail Voronov, always the strategist, added, "We need a decoy, something big to draw their attention." Captain Li Wei chimed in, "I can lead the decoy mission. My ship, the Shadow, is perfect for this. Fast, silent, and deadly." The operation was named Ghost Strike. Li Wei would draw the bulk of the fleet away with his ship, while a smaller, stealthier team, led by Alexei, would infiltrate the main fleet with the virus. The twist was in the virus itself. It was designed not just to disrupt, but to crash their navigation and weapon systems, effectively blinding and disarming them. As the day approached, the tension was palpable. Li Wei's ship launched first, its path erratic to mimic a desperate escape, pulling the Draconian ships after it like sharks to blood. Meanwhile, Alexei and his team, in a ship cloaked in darkness and silence, maneuvered closer to the enemy's core. The silence of space was broken only by the occasional beep of their instruments. "We're in position," Alexei whispered over the comms, his eyes fixed on the looming Draconian flagship. "Elena, on your mark." Elena, from the safety of the bunker but guiding them through the stars, replied, "Uploading the virus now. Stand by." The seconds felt like eternity, the fate of their gambit hanging on digital signals crossing the void. Then, the chaos began. Screens on the Draconian ships flickered, systems failed, and suddenly, the mighty fleet was in disarray. "Retract, now!" Alexei ordered, as their ship began its silent retreat. The Draconian ships, now blind and vulnerable, collided or drifted off course, some even firing on their own. Li Wei's voice came through. Decoy pulling back. They're too disorganized to chase. Back in the control room, the team watched in awe and relief. The Draconians, in their arrogance, had underestimated human cunning and resolve. But the victory was bittersweet. They had lost good people, and the war was far from over. In the aftermath, as they debriefed, Mikhail voiced a concern that had been lingering. This won't be the end. They'll come back with something worse. Alexei looked at each of his team members, his expression one of both pride and wariness. We've shown them we can hit back, hard. But you're right, Mikhail. This is just the beginning of the end. We need to be ready for whatever they throw at us next. The chapter ended with the Resistance celebrating a hard-fought victory, but the celebration was muted by the knowledge that this battle was just one in a long war. The intrigue lay in what form the draconian retaliation would take and how humanity would adapt to keep their edge. The stars were silent, but the message was clear. Earth was not to be underestimated. The victory had given humanity a brief respite, but the Draconians were not a foe to be underestimated. In the shadows of their triumph, a new threat emerged, one that didn't rely on brute force, but on subterfuge and espionage. The Resistance's base was now a fortress, but its walls were not just of steel and concrete, but of secrecy and vigilance. Alexei Steele Novak felt the weight of this new silent war more than ever. We've detected unusual movements, Elena Yurievna reported, her voice tense. Draconian ships are docking with unknown human vessels. They're turning our own against us. The revelation was chilling. The Draconians were manipulating human factions, perhaps those disillusioned or desperate for peace, into their service. We need to find these ships, these traitors, Alexei ordered. Mikhail, assemble a strike team. We hit them before they can act. Mikhail Voronov, his face set in determination, nodded. Already on it, but we need to be swift, silent. The operation was covert, a shadow war within the larger conflict. Mikhail led a small team in stealth ships, hunting down the rogue human vessels. The intrigue was thick. Who among the human survivors had chosen this path of betrayal? As they tracked one such ship to an asteroid belt, a perfect place for an ambush, the action began. Without warning, the traitor ship fired, their weapons meant for surprise rather than power. Mikhail's team responded with precision, their ships weaving through the debris, a dance of death in the void. We've got incoming, one of the pilots shouted as Draconian fighters joined the fray, protecting their human pawns. The battle was fierce, the silence of space shattered by explosions and the chatter of combat. Mikhail's voice was calm over the comms. Focus on the traitor ship! Disable it, don't destroy! We need to know who's behind this. With coordinated strikes, they managed to cripple the rogue vessel, forcing it to surrender. The humans on board, former comrades now collaborators, were captured. Among them, they found a familiar face, Captain Alexei Sokolov, once a respected officer in the Resistance. Why, Alexei? Mikhail demanded, his voice a mix of betrayal and sorrow. Sokolov, beaten and defeated, looked up. They promised us Earth, a piece of it, free from this endless war. The revelation was a knife in the back, but it gave them insight into the Draconian strategy: divide and conquer. Back at the base, the information was invaluable. Elena worked to decode the communications between the traitors and the Draconians, revealing a plot to infiltrate and sabotage the Resistance's core operations. Time for our own deception, Alexei decided. We plant false information, make them think their plan succeeded. The trap was set, with Elena spreading disinformation about a new, critical base being established. When the Draconians, guided by their human spies, struck at this false target, the resistance was ready. The action escalated as Draconian ships descended, only to be met with a barrage from hidden defenses. The battle was intense, with human ships emerging from cloaks to counterattack, the sky lit with the fire of war. Alexei, leading from the front, his voice booming over the comms. "This is for Earth! This is for our future!" The Draconians, caught in the trap, were decimated. Their ships fell from the sky, a rain of fire and metal, as the resistance fighters cheered, their victory hard but clear. As the dust settled, Alexei looked out over the battlefield from his ship, the cost of victory evident. "We've won this battle, but the war of shadows has only begun. We need to be smarter, faster." The chapter ended with the resistance having turned the tables, but the intrigue of who might betray next lingered. The stars were silent once more, but beneath that silence, a new, more insidious war was brewing. The silence after the Shadow War was deceptive. The Draconians, learning from their defeats, had not retreated but regrouped, preparing for what could be their final assault on humanity's last stand. The solar system, now a fortress of human ingenuity and desperation, awaited the storm. Alexei Steele Novak, his eyes reflecting the cold light of distant stars, watched from the command center as the first signs of the approaching Draconian fleet appeared on the screens. This was no mere skirmish. It was an all-out siege. The resistance had prepared, their ships a blend of human and alien technology, forming a defensive lattice around Earth and its neighboring planets. The plan was clear: hold the line at all costs. As the Draconian ships entered the system, the battle commenced. The space around Earth became a tapestry of light and destruction, human ships darting in and out, exploiting the weaknesses they had learned to find in their enemy's armor. But even as the battle raged, a new betrayal was unfolding. One of the Resistance's key commanders, General Andrei Kuznetsov, had been in secret talks with the Draconians. His heart, once full of resolve, now beat for a promise of power and survival for his faction. In the chaos of the siege, Kuznetsov's ships suddenly turned, their weapons aimed not at the Draconians, but at the human fleet. The betrayal was swift, the damage catastrophic. Ships that had fought side by side now fought each other. The unity of the resistance shattered. Alexei, witnessing this betrayal, felt the sting of loss, but also a surge of resolve. With minimal words, he ordered, "Focus on Kuznetsov's ships. We deal with our own first." The action intensified, with human ships engaging in a desperate dogfight. The lines of friend and foe blurred. The Draconians, seizing the opportunity, pushed forward, their ships like dark spears aimed at Earth's heart. Elena Yurievna, working in the shadows of the battle, managed to hack into Kuznetsov's communications. Her findings were grim. The general had not only turned, but had revealed critical locations and strategies to the enemy. With this intelligence, Alexei orchestrated a counter-move. Using the chaos, he led a small elite team to board Kuznetsov's flagship. The fight was brutal, room to room, the air thick with the smell of burnt circuits and blood. In the command center of the traitor's ship, Alexei confronted Kuznetsov. "You've chosen your side, but you've forgotten one thing. We fight for Earth, for humanity, not for power." Kuznetsov, his face a mask of defeat, had no words, only the silent acknowledgement of his doom. With the turncoat's fleet subdued, the focus returned to the Draconians, whose advance had been slowed but not stopped. The resistance, now leaderless in parts but unified in spirit, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. The skies over Earth were a maelstrom of ships, explosions painting the stars with hues of destruction. Human technology, combined with captured draconian tech, began to turn the tide, ships falling from both sides in a grim ballet of war. As the battle neared its climax, Alexei, from his ship's bridge, saw the turning point. The draconian flagship, the symbol of their might, was crippled by a combined assault from the remnants of the human fleet. The victory was Pyrrhic. Earth was left in ruins, the cost in lives and infrastructure immeasurable. But the draconian siege was broken. The enemy retreated, leaving behind the debris of their defeat. Yet, as the dust settled, Alexei knew this was not the end. The war had taken its toll, the betrayals had wounded, but humanity still stood, battered but unbowed, ready for whatever came next. The intrigue lay in how they would rebuild, how they would heal from the scars of betrayal, and what new threats might emerge from the shadows of this victory. The aftermath of the siege left Earth in a state of desolation, but from the ashes rose a resolve stronger than ever. The resistance had won a battle, but the war, they knew, was far from over. The Draconians, humiliated and vengeful, would return with greater force. Alexei Steel Novak, now a legend among the survivors, stood before the remnants of his command, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders.
We've won today, but victory is fleeting. We prepare for the final confrontation.
The plan was audacious: lure the Draconian fleet into a trap that would end the war once and for all. Using the intelligence gathered from Kuznetsov's betrayal, they would exploit the Draconians' arrogance and their desire for retribution. "We'll make them think Earth is vulnerable," Elena Yurievna proposed, her eyes alight with the fire of strategy. "We'll broadcast distress signals, make it seem like we're on our last legs." "And when they come?" Mikhail Voronov asked, his voice carrying the scars of recent betrayals.
"We'll be waiting,"
Alexei confirmed, "with everything we've got." The preparation was intense. Every ship, every soldier, every piece of technology aimed at one final stand. They rebuilt, repurposed, and innovated, creating a network of defenses that would make the Draconians regret their return. Weeks turned into months, the tension building as the Draconians, true to prediction, gathered their might for a decisive strike. Their ships, more numerous and advanced, blotted out the stars as they approached Earth. Elena managed the communication deception, her voice calm over the comms. "Sending out the final distress signal. They're taking the bait." As the Draconian fleet entered the system, the trap was sprung. Hidden within the debris of the last battle, human ships, cloaked and silent, awaited. The space around Earth, once a battlefield, now a chessboard where every move was calculated for checkmate.
"They're here,"
Mikhail confirmed, his ship one of the first to engage. The battle was fierce, the Draconians not expecting the Resistance's hidden strength. From his flagship, Alexei watched the chaos unfold, his voice echoing through the fleet.
"For Earth! For our future!"
The Resistance's ships, equipped with technology gleaned from countless battles, moved with a precision that belied their desperation. The Draconians, caught in the web of human ingenuity, found their ships falling, one by one, to mines, to ambushes, to the relentless human counterattack. But the battle's tide turned when a rogue Draconian cruiser broke through, heading straight for Earth's surface. Alexei, understanding the gravity, made a decision that would define his legacy.
"Elena, coordinate the defenses.
Keep them off Earth. I'll handle this one. In his ship, The Last Stand, Alexei engaged the cruiser, a one-on-one duel that would decide the fate of millions. The fight was intense, ships weaving through each other's fire, the dance of death in the cold of space. As they clashed, Alexei's ship took critical damage, but not before he managed to disable the cruiser's weapons. With his ship failing, he maneuvered for one last strike, ramming his vessel into the cruiser's command center. His last words over the comm, filled with warmth and pride, were, "We've shown them the strength of humanity. Remember this day." The explosion was visible from Earth, a beacon of sacrifice and victory. The draconian cruiser, leaderless and crippled, was quickly destroyed by the human fleet. With their flagship gone, the remaining draconian forces began to retreat, their will to fight broken. The battle, and with it the war, was over. Humanity had prevailed, but at a cost that would echo through generations. Back on Earth, as the survivors watched the retreat, Elena, tears mixing with the dust of battle, spoke softly. "He gave us our future." The aftermath was a time of mourning and rebuilding. The war had ended, but the legacy of those who fought, especially Alexei Novak, would be eternal. His sacrifice had not only saved Earth, but had shown the galaxy the resilience and spirit of humanity. The chapter, and with it the story, closed with humanity looking up at the stars, not in fear, but with hope. They had won their place among the stars, their legacy written in blood and steel, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. The war was over, but the story of humanity's ascent was just beginning.